Welcome to this online course. My name is Wasila Lansari. It's a pleasure to guide you throughout this learning journey. In this new video, we are going to deal with the second chapter entitled Reading and Understanding Scientific Text. By the end of this chapter, you will be able to identify the main ideas of a scientific text, use reading strategies such as skimming and scanning, summarize biological text, analyze scientific abstract using the IMLAT structure, which is to identify the abstract's purpose, the method, the result, and the conclusion. Now, let's begin by asking a simple question. What is a scientific text? A scientific text is a written document that communicates scientific knowledge in a clear, objective, and organized way. Unlike ordinary texts, scientific texts are based on evidence and fact rather than personal opinions. Their main purpose is to share research findings, scientific concepts, and new discoveries. Therefore, they use precise vocabulary, logical organization, and reliable information. Scientific texts can be written for different audiences. Some are intended for researchers and scientists, and therefore use highly technical language. Others are written for students with explanations and illustrations that make learning easier. Scientific texts may also target professionals to apply scientific knowledge in their work, or even the general public, where scientific information is presented in a simpler and more accessible language. Understanding who the audience is helps us understand why different scientific texts vary in style and level of complexity. Before we learn reading strategies, it is important to understand two essential reading skills, decoding and fluency. Decoding is the ability to recognize written words correctly by connecting letters and sounds. It is the first step toward reading. Fluency means reading smoothly, accurately, and at appropriate speed. When you read fluently, you no longer focus on individual words, but instead concentrate on understanding the meaning of the text. Together, decoding and fluency improve reading comprehension. Reading is not only about looking at words, it is an active process that consists of three main stages: the pre-reading, the while reading, and the post-reading. During the pre-reading phase, we prepare our minds before reading. For example, we can brainstorm ideas, discuss the topic with classmates, observe pictures or videos, predict content, or identify important vocabulary using a word cloud. Here is an example where we use a picture of a brain in the pre-reading. And before reading, we may ask ourselves the following question. What does the picture represent? What do you know about the brain? Does the brain control thinking only? These questions activate our previous knowledge and make reading easier. Next comes the while reading phase. Here we use two very useful strategies, which are skimming and scanning. Let's begin with skimming. Skimming means reading quickly to understand the general idea of the text. We do not read every word. Instead, we pay attention to the title, headings, the first and the last sentences, and the repeated keywords. For example, after skimming the text about the brain, we may have answered the question, what is the author's main purpose? Here the answer is, the author's main purpose is to explain the role of the brain as the body's control center. So skimming helps us identify the main idea without reading every details. The second strategy is scanning. Scanning is different because we read to find specific information. So first we read question and identify the keywords. We have to move our eyes quickly over the text, ignoring irrelevant information. Stop as soon as you locate the answer. Scanning helps you find specific facts, dates, names, or figures without reading the full text. Let's have scanning within the same text about the brain with three different questions. The first question is, where does the brain transmit signals? Here the keywords are where, which means the place. The second keyword is transmit, and the third keyword is signal. So here we can have the same, we can find the same words, transmit and signal, in the text or the synonyms. We go through the text, and if we go to second line, we find the word sends, which is the synonym of transmit. We have signals. So here are our keywords. So let's read. Sends signals to different organs. So here is our answer, to different organs. So we stop as soon as we have the answer. No need to read more. Second question. What protects the brain? The keyword is protect. Let's see if we have the word protect or any synonym of the word. If we go to the third line, we have protected, which is the synonym of or the same word as protect. So here we have our answer. The brain is protected by the skull. So the skull is the answer of the second question. The third question is a yes-no question. We have to answer by yes or no. Then we justify the choice of yes or no. Does the brain control voluntary functions? So the keyword here is, or the keywords are control, voluntary functions. So if we go to the text and go to 7th line, we have the brain controls both, which means two, conscious activities and automatic processes. So in the question there is only one. So here, because in the text we have two functions, so the answer is no. And how we justify? We justify from the sentence that we have just read. The brain controls both conscious activities and automatic processes. Now let's go to the post-reading activities. After reading, this stage helps us check and deepen our understanding. We may summarize the text, have a group discussion, a think per share activity, a role play, asking and answering questions, peer testing, reflect, review, ask questions, connect ideas, share insights, or apply learning. For example, in the activity of post-reading related to the text of the brain, one student can act as a journalist and another as a doctor, discussing the function of the brain. Activities like this improve communication skills while reinforcing scientific knowledge. Now, we come to another key concept in this chapter, the scientific abstract. So what is a scientific abstract? It is a concise summary of a scientific article or research paper. It provides readers with a quick overview of the study's purpose, method, findings, and conclusions, all in a brief, self-contained paragraph. It helps readers quickly identify the purpose and key result of a study. It saves time by allowing readers to decide if the full article is relevant, appears at the beginning of a scientific article and paper in one paragraph information that follows the IMRAD sequence. So what is meant by the IMRAD sequence? Here we have the I is for introduction of the abstract. M, it is for the method, how the research was conducted. R is for the results, where there is the main findings of the study. And the discussion, D for the discussion, where there is the conclusion, the implications, and interpret the result and explain their significance. Let's have an example of an abstract. Here we have the effect of light or photosynthesis. Now, where is the introduction? Okay, here in this abstract. The photosynthesis is a fundamental biological process by which plants convert light energy into chemical energy. Variations in light intensity are known to affect the rate of this process. This study here, we are still in the introduction, but this is the objective of the study. This study aimed to investigate the effect of different light intensities on the rate of photosynthesis in aquatic plants. Now comes the method. Which method we have in this abstract? Samples of Elodea were exposed to 5 levels of light intensity Oxygen bubble production was measured over 10 minutes intervals and as an indicator of photosynthetic rates. Here, the results. A positive correlation was observed between light intensity and photosynthetic rates. Maximum rate was recorded at 1000 lux with a plateau beyond this threshold. Now comes the discussion. Light intensity significantly influences photosynthetic up to saturation points. These findings support the use of controlled lighting in agriculture and laboratory settings to optimize plant growth. Now, thank you for your attention and feel free to ask any question or revisit any topic covered in this chapter.